Democratic politicians are speaking out today, saying the long lines meant that many voters were disenfranchised at the polls, which may have affected certain districts more than others.
It was a huge failure for our democratic process and our democratic system yesterday.
No matter how you look at it, last night's presidential preference election was chaos, with some voters having to wait in line for over 5 hours and others being turned away completely. But today, Democratic lawmakers are saying it affected some groups of voters more than others.
Anytime you reduce the number of options to vote, fewer people vote, period.
And in the West Valley, in the Maryville area, in the Glendale area, South and West Glendale, there was only one polling place in that entire area. The polling places were very spread out in the West Valley, and that's really disappointing given the high minority population in that area.
Quezada said low-income and minority voters who are more reliant on public transportation were less likely to make it to the polls, and even those that did make it to a polling place had to wait hours to cast their ballots, long after both races were already called.
Because the polling places were limited, which resulted in longer lines, which resulted in the races being called before people cast their votes, you saw a number of voters that said, well, the race is over, I'm just going to go home now.
Some called for Maricopa County Recorder Helen Purcell to step down.
And when the public tells them that they are no longer wanted, they are no longer needed, they are no longer qualified, that public servant needs to listen.
It's clear that she was not interested in letting the democratic will of the people be heard, and it was clear voter suppression that should be punished.
Now, Helen Purcell came out and said she will not be resigning, but as an elected official, she is up for re-election this year. One of the state senators speaking out, Democrat Andrew Sherwood. And Democrat Andrew Sherwood, I'm joined with him now. Senator Sherwood, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Now, you've been around a lot of elections. Just how bad was this one?
Yes, sir. This is going to be my 4th consecutive election cycle I'm going into right now. This is definitely the worst election cycle I've ever seen. I've never heard stories about running out of ballots, problems parking, long lines in tune of 5, 6, 7 hours, and party voter registration problems. These complications have never happened like this, and they should never happen again.
And you said there's one polling place in your district that was hit a little bit harder than some of the other ones?
Yeah, my district has 4 polling locations, but 2 of them were hit very hardly. We had voters who got in line at 5 p.m. and they were still in line hours and hours after that. They had trouble parking. So yeah, absolutely. This just isn't my district, though. This is all of Maricopa County.
And what's going to be done over the next few weeks and months to make sure that this doesn't happen in November?
Yeah, well, I proposed 4 bills earlier this session, and I know that my Senate Democrats and my House Democrats, they've been working hard to try to find solutions. We're talking about automatic voter registration. We're talking about extending polling hours. We're talking about additional polling locations. These are things that we've been proposing here years, and we haven't heard, these bills haven't even gotten a hearing yet in committee.
Thank you so much, Senator Andrew Sherwood. We're going to send it back to Zach and Amber in the studio.